Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. Hang out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
You know, in D&D, monsters can get pretty weird, but we're going to go over a list of monsters that specialize in weird. I'm going to start this video by thanking our sponsor, Easy Roller Dice. Whether it's your first set of dice or your 1 millionth set of dice, Easy Roller Dice. Down in the description below, you're going to find a one-time coupon code for a whopping 20% off, as well as a link to easyrollerdice.com/nerdarchy. Go check out Easy Roller Dice and grab yourself a set of metal dice.
All right, so today we're gonna get weird and talk about D&D's weird monsters.
Yeah, we were gonna do our top 5, but there were too many. I'm like, oh my god, and we stopped at 10. But we're talking, and there's so many more, and that's without going into other editions. Just staying with 5th edition, we came up with a list of 10. I was I wanted to put Thought Eater on it, but I'm there's not a Thought Eater in 5e yet, and it's literally a tiny monster, tiny, right? Mm-hmm. It's a platypus that freaking eats your brain.
Speaking of eating brains, you've got the brain mole as well. So there's plenty of things that just, get that weird vibe when you look at the picture or you read the description.
So, brain mole is really weird in the sense that it just looked like a mole, right? Mm-hmm. And what it does is it burrows through the ground to where someone's sleeping on the ground. And then, eats their psychic energy through the ground. That's super specific. Some of the that's some of the monsters that are really weird. And when we go through the list, and they're not in a particular order of this is the weirdest or to least weird or vice versa.
We just grabbed ones that are weird, and we'll talk about what they are, why we think they're weird. And we're gonna start off right with the Modrons. And as a game where we roll these funny shaped dice, as denoted by Easy Roller Dice out in front of us, someone's I wonder if I could turn these dice into a thing and have that be a thing in D&D.
I know, robots ruled by this, supreme overlord.
So, I don't know whether that's how the inspiration for Modrons came, but I kind of think it is.
I'm a little disappointed that they didn't just go full bore with it and be why don't we just make one for each die? I mean, they made one for several of them. Why not just go all the way?
Right. But, we got, all the different, monodrones, duodrones, triodrones, quadrodrones, quintadrones, or whatever, pentadrones, whatever they're all called these days. But they're weird. They're robots, constructs, if you will. And, they just don't fit. They just stand out. So, if you wind up either going to the plane of Mechanus or you have them invade the Prime, they stand out in every way, shape, and form.
Well, yeah, once a year, a specific number of them just get sent out as scouts with the idea that most of them are not coming back. And it's a really odd number, 287 or something. And it's just okay, and then we're all right, no big deal, we'll just build more while you're gone. So yeah, they're pretty weird, pretty creepy. Then we have the Flumph. The Flumph is a holdout from 1st edition. I'm not even sure where it came about or why, but they're we need to basically we need a good monster that is a jellyfish, is psychic, and sprays you in diarrhea,
and
essentially.
And floats around the Underdark.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like the idea of good monsters. I like the idea that there's something out there that you can roleplay with and interact with. But in an area such as the Underdark that is full of bad, creepy stuff, there must be some factory that just pops out these Flumph like clockwork. Because they're small and they're weak. And they feed on the energies of, bad thoughts and what have you. But they pop like balloons. They die so easily. So it's how come all of these, Belays and Hookars and Drow and Duergar don't just slaughter these things? Why do they still exist?
It's because they're so cute. Even evil can't bring themselves to kill them.
They aren't even cute.
Come on, it's tentacles and a disc floating around, spraying diarrhea on things.
All right, I'm waiting for the positive and or good or cute part.
I
Is
guess.
that still coming?
So this monster really does fall more in the silly than it does the weird, I think.
It's both. I mean, I think jellyfish are cool and they've got their own things in the real world. But once you decide to have them be floating in air and feeding on thoughts, and there's no like further ecology of okay, what happens when a Flumph goes bad. I mean, I'm looking for, Cops Underdark style, where the Flumph is fed on so much dark energy from living around Drow and Dorgar that it turns into something else. Where's that?
Where is that? Well, I don't know, but let's go to number 3, and that is the Froghemoth.
All right, giant frogs, like they've been around. You can pump them up and do whatever have you. But let's give this giant frog 3 eyes and tentacles, and be cool enough that frog creatures wind up like worshiping it or praying to it.
It's not just 3 eyes. It's 3 eyes on the freaking stalk.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
3 eyes in itself. I mean, like, he's got one extra. He's evolved. No, but it's like there's a stalk on his forehead that, has 3 eyes on it to look around. It's got tentacles, and it's just weird. And it may or may not have come from space, depending on which lore you want to go with.
That is true. So, like, it's kind of cool because, like, their eyes are small, so you can have this little thing sticking out of the water, and you're like, oh, isn't that cute? And you realize this thing is, taking up the entire basin that you're looking in.
It's a fun monster to use, but it's still weird.
It is still weird. So next we're going to go to the Flail Snail. And, this is a hilarity that's, recently been added to, well, I can't say too recently, but it wasn't in the core book. But Flail Snail, you've got a giant monster with a magic reflective shell that has, like, mace-like tendrils off the top of its head that it could just beat people with.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just envision, like, they're in the boardroom at TSR back in the day, and they're like, I know, we need to take a mollusk and mix it with a medieval weapon. But which medieval weapon should we go with? Hammers? No, that would just be silly.
How about the sword snail? How will that work?
No. Now you're being ridiculous. And then someone comes with a flail.
What about something that rhymes? Is there anything that rhymes with snail?
They're like, Mal, Jowl, Sal. Sal down in the mail room. No, that's not gonna work. Flail Snail is where we're going with this. Let's make it a thing, and now let's make it terrifying.
And the cool part about it, once you've actually managed to defeat it, you can wind up you get the shell as loot, which is kind of cool, and much to the chagrin of the Spelljammer game when we kept pushing the shells off the ship, afraid that something was going to happen with them. It's like,
and you guys might not have realized they were so valuable at the time.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, like, oh, son of a monkey, so cool.
We pushed about 20,000 gold off the ship. It's like, no.
We must go salvage the Flail Snails now.
So next we move on is to the Grell, and what's worse than things with tentacles? How about if it's just a brain?
Well, it's not just a brain. It has a beak.
Well, that's true.
And so this is actually one of my favorite monsters, but I love the Grell. It's a freaking giant floating brain with a like shark parrot beak on it, and a bunch of tentacles hanging under it. And it's like, well, what more could we do with this monster to really make it pop? I know. What if those tentacles were electrified?
So now you've actually used one of these in a game where you gave the one a monocle and a top hat.
Absolutely. It doesn't have eyes, mind you. It's just a monocle wedged in like its gray matter brain.
So like it was quite a disturbing sight to see, but utter hilarity, followed with this. It's prim and proper Grell who's gonna psychically talk to you. Like it's like what the heck.
It had to be done. Like I said, I love that monster, but man, is it weird. So next we have the Stench cow, and this is from earlier editions, and this one is just weird because like someone's like, I know, let's take a skunk and mash it up with a cow. Like D&D is kind of infamous or famous, as however you want to look at it, for moshing things together. You got the Perton, which is like a deer and a giant bird of prey. You got owlbears. You've got all kinds of things where they're just different monsters or different real world animals just kind of matched together to make a new thing. Mythology has done the same thing with the chimera, griffins, hippogriffs. And okay, it's kind of cool and it works, but you're like, you really feel like at some point they've like run out of animals to mash together when they have to go to the skunk and a cow.
I'm not, super familiar with the skunk cow, but I love the hybrid monster.
Stench cow. They're gonna get very offended if you go around willy nilly calling them skunk cows.
Sorry, I'm not overly familiar with the stench cow, but I do love the let's just take two monsters and shove it together. I've done this for years over my gaming history, because it is a clear thing in D&D. And back in the day, it was like, oh, some mad wizard did it, and I love that. I mean, it's cool that some of these creatures in the current edition have wound up getting better lore than just the mad wizard did it. But I'm all for just let's stick two things together and see what you get.
Now, I kind of want to do an encounter where I use them as a hazard that the players kind of have to maneuver around and be careful that they don't go stampeding. And in the meantime, they're dealing with the stench of the cows, which is like make a saving throw or you're poisoned. Mm-hmm. So, every round they're going to have to deal with that. So I think that would be kind of fun.
So that could be an encounter or a module. Could be something you run for the next time you do a game with the fans. I think it could be a lot of fun there.
We could definitely do something with that. Next is the Peircer.
Now, the Peircer is great. I love the fact that in 5th edition, a lot of these monsters that have the ambush quality, they've taken away any real chance of noticing what they are. They just until they move, they are indistinguishable from a natural statue, stalactite, what have you. I love that stuff because it makes the game roll that much smoother without, all these unnecessary perception checks. Every time, oh my god, there's a stalactite. Is it a Peircer? There's another one. Is it a Peircer? Really slows the game down. But these giant stalactites whose sole mission is to fall on their prey so that it can hopefully kill them so it can eat it. And if it fails, it's got to crawl back up the wall to be able to fall again.
And it's super slow. It is super slow. This seems like a step backwards in evolution from any direction. Its only ability to hunt is hope something walks under it so it can fall on it. Or it can move itself into position very slowly. But, it just speaks to the ridiculous of the early monsters. And also kind of speaking to some of the things they've done in 5th edition is take these really weird monsters and come up with cool and fun lore for them compared to what we got in 1st edition. The game has evolved that way. And I actually love all the effort that's gone into them going, you know what, how can we take this monster that's very nostalgic and maybe kind of weird and silly, but make it like a real thing in D&D, and right. They put a cool piece of mythos or lore to it.
Now, if you're going to be traveling around the Underdark and you're looking out for Peircers, you might want to also look out for Cloakers.
No. The wardrobe is the worst place for these. Think about it. Literally, this monster's adaptation for hunting, part of it is to look like a cloak.
Well, that is true.
A piece of garment. That's very oddly specific. I don't know which is worse. The fact that this thing has evolved to look like a cloak, or that this other thing has evolved to look like a stalactite. At least the stalactite is a natural formation. A cloak is a man-made thing.
That is true.
And someone decided, you know what, we need a monster that if you accidentally put it on, it's going to freaking suffocate you.
It's going to bite into your neck. It's going to try and strangle you with the ties that you tied.
They're like, wait a minute, a mimic? Hold my beer. I'm going to go with this strangulation smother cloak. So it's almost like an evil variation on a mimic.
Right. And, the Mimic, not that that's, on the list, the Mimic in and of itself is yet another weird monster. It
makes more sense, though, than a lot of other ones because it just mimics other things. That's a great way to ambush. That actually is a good way for a monster to evolve. It makes sense.
Right. But it's still weird. All right, people like treasure, and I know this, so I'm gonna look like a treasure pile or a treasure chest so that I can, get something to stick to me so that I can eat them. It's still pretty flippin' odd.
True, but at least you could do things like be a patch of mushrooms and ground,
Right.
and like wild boar might come looking to eat you, and then they step on you and get trapped, and it's
Right.
like a big fly trap. Like I can like think of natural ways for the mimic to exist that makes sense, but things like the cloaker and the Peircer, I'm like, this is just weird. Because, like, the Peircer is like a mollusk that has a stone shell, and it's only thing it's got going for is I'm going to fall on you.
I'm going to use the power of gravity.
Really, it's like the designers went, hey, how can I dick over some players? Some GM somewhere is like, I know, I'm just going to drop rocks on them, and they all die.
So the next thing on the list is Beholders, a tried and true classic of D&D, the Eye Tyrant, the mega spell slinging eye stalk having monstrosity aberration, whatever they are these days. Utterly crazy.
Well, the weird thing about the Beholder is it's literally an eye, a big eye, with more eyes.
Yes.
That's the premise of this monster. And then, like, they did some other things to make it terrifying. Like, here's this big cone of anti-magic, so screw you, mages, and here are 10 eye stalks, and we're going to do all kinds of wicked, crazy things like rip wounds in your flesh and disintegrate you and take over your mind and
Turn
put
you
you
to
to sleep.
stone.
Turn you to stone, pick you up with some telekinesis. So yeah, the Eye Tyrant is really weird, and then they went and built an equally weird ecology around this monster to like propel it to the next level.
So I love the fact that they are for the most part solitary creatures, and anything that doesn't look exactly like them is clearly wrong and needs to be destroyed. You can obviously have derivations in your world. I've used a lot with Beholders. Had a lot of fun with a series of encounters leading up to them, which I thought was a lot of fun. But you're not getting much weirder than those guys because they're just freaking weird.
That's true, but hold my beer, Ted, because that brings us to the gas spore. This monster is literally designed to do one thing: look like a beholder, but it explodes when you freaking hit it. Like, that's like when you make a weird monster, then the only thing it does is mimic another weird monster, and then explodes when you hit it. And like, we're just scratching the surface. Like, there's shriekers, mushrooms that'll scream at you. There are so many creepy, crazy, weird monsters.
You've got Grick, which are these weird, serpent-like creatures with the beak and tentacles.
No head.
But no head. Like, I think those things are fantastic. I love Displacer Beast. Let's take a cat, give it 6 legs, give it tentacles. I'm noticing a lot with tentacles here.
Yeah.
And
things
then,
get weird when you add tentacles.
And then you wind up saying, okay, well,
Look at you, Japan.
It's never exactly where you think it is. Like, the list can just go on and on.
Yeah, I know. We know what we need. We need a monster that is, I don't know, a brain, normal sized brain, not giant, because that'd be ridiculous. Slap some legs on it, and what does it do? Oh, I know. It eats other people's brains, and then it inhabits their head. So, like, literally, we could go on and on with weird D&D monsters. But we just went and picked some of our favorites, some ones that like, strike our funny bones or we just think are really weird and out there. But the question is, guys, which monsters in D&D do you find the weirdest? Is there ones that you feel like we missed and should have definitely talked about? We got a place for that. That's down in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
While you're down there, don't forget to check out the link to Easy Roller Dice and use that promo code for 20% off.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.